Did that baby just... The Mandalorian. Episode 2. So the Mandalorian episode 2 was a short one. Yeah, people are not really happy about that it's so short. But the one thing it's got going for it is it knows exactly what it wants to be. It's not over the top. It's not on a giant scale for no reason. I mean, first thing, if you don't know, it's the first 3 episodes all tie into each other. And the whole idea is that it's a 3-story arc involving this first bounty, which, if you haven't watched the first episode, it's Baby Yoda. Or baby yodeling, there's no term for it, but I'll just call it Baby Yoda. They seem to also have a little bit of a thematic repetition, where it starts off with an encounter, then we have something happening, and then there's a little bit more action, and then there's a plateau. The problem with this episode, really, the only problem is nothing really happens. To me, it reminded me of the Canto Bight journey, except for the fact that it was not in any way convoluted. It's very simple. Man left his ship behind, which I've always wondered, why do people steal people's ships? Like, you land it, it's not like it's got a security system. So, they introduced an old Star Wars character, which everybody recognizes, the Jawas, except with red eyes, not yellow eyes. The Jawas had stripped down his vehicle. Now at this point, most people would think that his ship is done, but we get reintroduced to the character from the first movie, played by Nick Nolte, who happens to be friends with the Jawas and can speak Jawa. So he says, it's just stripped, it's not broken. Which does kind of make sense. The Jawas like keeping things so they can resell it, and if they break it, then they won't be able to resell it. Before he meets up with the Nick Nolte character, we get a lovely chase. I thought it was a fun little chase down. He tries to chase down the Jawas. There's a little nod to Indiana Jones. Anyway, he gets knocked out cold. The rest of the episode is basically about him trying to now get his ship back together, as well as him interacting with the child. The whole big thing is him interacting with the child, because we start off with him walking with the child next to him, which is the coolest visuals. This series is all about cool visuals. On this floating baby pod, which he can actually control with his arm, which I thought was really cool. Even when he's chasing after the Jawas, you see this baby pod is busy following him. And then they go to interact with the Jawas. Nick Nolte characters suggest that they trade with the Jawas. The Jawas want his armor metal, which he was never going to give up, because it's Mandalorian steel. And then they asked for the baby, which obviously wasn't going to give up, because otherwise you can't get more of the bounty. And so they asked for an egg. It's like, what's this egg? And then you're like, oh, because you see him go into a hole, you see something weird and woolly, and you see an eye open, and then you see blasters go off, you see him being thrown out, and you see, oh, it's the thing from the trailer, with the rhino horn, and he's being beaten by this thing. And yeah, the beautiful thing about the show is firstly, that beast looks fantastic in CGI, but I was about to say, I don't know if it was a CGI Mandalorian. Like, that's how good the CGI is in the series. You don't know if it's CGI. You don't even have to care if it's CGI. In the previous episode, I said there were 2 moments where you noted that it was like, did that have to be CGI? In this one, it really feels like there was a lot less of that. There was 0 feeling of that. Anyway, then we get the big reveal that Baby Yoda, being 50, knows how to. He has force sensibilities. He lifted that giant rhino thing, protected the Mandalorian, and then allowed the Mandalorian to kill it. I mean, it wasn't, he was basically protecting the Mandalorian, and then he passed out. The rest of the episode is him returning the egg, the Jawas being happy, eating the egg immediately, because it's a giant egg. They're really excited about it. And yeah, and then them fixing the spaceship and leaving. So it was a very short, very streamlined episode, but it was so well directed. I learned a couple of things again that I didn't know. The nice thing about the series is like it's so Star Wars. It just feels like Star Wars. Whenever I watch it, I have all the lights turned down and I have the volume on max, because it's like this tiny cinematic experience that's unlike anything else on TV, on Netflix. Yeah, I can understand why they released it now, because I don't know how many people were like 100% keen on watching Rise of Skywalker. I know I am. I don't care. As long as it's Star Wars, I'm watching it. I enjoyed Solo because I didn't go in with any expectation, but also because it was, if you take it for what it's trying to do, it was a good movie, and visually especially. Don't talk to me about The Last Jedi. Yeah, I need to check if his channel's back up. The re-edit by Ivan Ortega of The Last Jedi, to me, is canon. What was in The Last Jedi, I don't consider canon, which is so insane. But yeah, this Mandalorian it's got the little feelings of Star Wars back into me, so I'm really excited about Rise of Skywalker. Unfortunately, I have already read all the spoilers, but I've read spoilers before I've gone into something, and never changes. It's like reading a script. You can read a spoiler, and if it's done well, then it's like you had a behind the scenes look at what's going to happen, but you don't know how it's going to look. You don't know how it's going to feel. And The Mandalorian is making me like wonder, like, if somebody told me that in The Mandalorian episode 2 there were only going to be like 5 things that happened. He fights some people, he walks, his ship gets stripped, we get introduced to Jawas, and he fights a beast. And then he fixes his ship. If you told me that was all that happened in the episode, I'll be like, that's the worst, that can't be it. But the way it's executed is the thing that determines how we feel. It's the reason why so many people have watched The Joker. The execution on that movie is on a high level. No CGI, just everything done right. I would give this episode, I think I gave the first one a 9. I'd give this one an 8.5, only because it was short. It finished so suddenly after he fixed his ship. There was no, there's never dialogue with him, but there was no like us seeing where he's going next. We don't know where he's going next. We don't know what he's gonna do next. All we know is that he and the baby are on a spaceship. So it's like third episode, it's a week away, and it's gonna be a really long week waiting for this. So on anticipation levels, these people get a 10 out of 10. They know what they're doing, and you can understand if this was released on Netflix, it firstly would have been popular because it's well shot, well written, and if you watched it all in one go, it would be like watching a movie. I almost feel like somebody should do a supercut where they take this and then like chop it up, make it slightly complex, see what it looked like for a 2-hour movie. I might even do that. But yeah, it's a really, really good series, and yeah. it's a really good, but yeah, it's a really good series, and I can't wait for next week's episode. Until next week, have a good one.